My name is Chris Pramas. I'm a game designer, writer, and publisher, and I designed the Dragon Age tabletop role-playing game, which we are playing today. So I have a bunch of different hats. I started as a game designer, and that was doing freelance work at the time. So I would go to conventions and hustle for work. And that was writing and design in role-playing games. There's essentially two types of work. There's the sort of world and story work, and then there's the actual game mechanics work. And some people are good at one or the other. I do both, depending on the game and what I've been hired to do. Most of my work has been in role-playing games, but I have done some work in miniatures games. I designed, co-designed the Dungeons & Dragons Chainmail miniatures game, which was about 10 years ago. It was a D&D miniatures game. I worked a little bit on Magic the Gathering doing flavor text for the cards. Your go-to inspiration, or at least for me, is history. I'm a historian by training. I've read a lot about many different periods, and you might not be doing something exactly from history, but there's an awful lot of inspiration out there for types of cultures and societies and rules, and then you get into mythology and all that. Books and novels informed a lot of the early tabletop RPG stuff, but you know, there's also movies and TV shows and that sort of thing as well. And creative people, they take their influences and they kind of bundle them together and hopefully spit out something that's new and exciting. So when BioWare was putting together the Dragon Age franchise, they were designing Dragon Age Origins, which was the first video game. And during that process, they contacted us and said, hey, we're doing this new fantasy game, and they thought it would really be fitting with kind of the old school vision of the game to have a tabletop version, and basically were we interested in doing it. And I love BioWare's games, so I said absolutely. So when I was designing the first part of our game, set one, Dragon Age Origins had not come out. So I went to Edmonton, I talked to a bunch of the BioWare people and took a lot of notes, and then they sent me basically reams of documents, and most of the design for set one was based on the documents, but I didn't actually get to play the game, the video game, until our game was basically going into layout. So that was an interesting sort of parallel development process. I totally grew up playing games. I started playing what are considered hobby games when I was 10 years old, and I started to play Dungeons & Dragons. Playing D&D led me to read Dragon Magazine, which was TSR's, it was D&D focused, but it was about all sorts of gaming back then, and that kind of introduced me to the larger world of tabletop games. And from there, I got into war games, started playing Avalon Hill games like Squad Leader and things like that, and then it also eventually led me to miniatures games and basically sent me down all these different avenues. So when I was young and I was reading Dragon Magazine, I had this aspiration that, you know, one day I was going to write an article for Dragon Magazine. And then when I got into college, I got a little more serious about looking at what it would take to get into the industry. In 1989, I started going to Gen Con, which is the biggest game convention in North America. And pretty much like the whole tabletop industry is at Gen Con. And that's where I started to meet people in the game industry and talk to developers and see, you know, who was hiring and what they were looking for. And, you know, basically it was a lot of just hitting the bricks, as it were, and talking to people and wrestling up work and getting someone who was going to take a chance on someone who was unpublished. Gaming is an awesome social activity to do with your friends and your family.